Hello everybody and welcome back to Manor Lords, and welcome to part 6 of our beginner's guide / let's play tutorial series. Now today we're going to be focusing on building a new settlement that is dedicated to mining and working particularly with the iron industry, which is one of the most lucrative and powerful industries in the game. Now at the end of part 5 we went ahead and cleared the map so we can choose any region we want, and there are 2 regions on this particular map that have rich iron nodes. There's Liedenfeld here in the center and Wiertz here in the northeast. And we're going to be coming up here to Wiertz. Now, I've decided I'm going to rename this region because it's quite a hilly region and has lots of iron. We are going to go ahead and rename it to the Iron Hills. All right, and with our region renamed to Iron Hills, I'm going to start laying out a grid system with the game paused before we start because I want to try and do a little bit more of a pre-structured city, see if we can't make it look a little bit nicer and a little bit less sort of haberdash than some of the previous ones we have made in this series. Now taking a look at this region, we do have a rich game deposit as well as a berry bush, so that'll be our starting food supplies. We also have a rich iron deposit. Now this iron mine is why we are here, and we are going to be building a huge industry based on that. And mining itself is a relatively straightforward production chain, but it does require a huge number of laborers, a huge number of families in your town that can be dedicated to that and not focused on things like food production, which means we need to have a huge town in order to support that. So our focus from the very start is going to be in growing our town and in supplying the food that we need for a large population. To that end, we can go ahead and establish our settlers camp. We want to settle this near to where we want our initial industries and our first homes, and since we're going to be relying on wild game and berries for our first food, we're going to be settling near to that. So we'll go ahead and drop this camp down here right in the center of the region. Now we're going to be starting with the basic supplies that we start with at the beginning of a brand new game. So if you're starting with a brand new game, this is sort of the default start setup there, and that's what we're going to be going with, just so that this can be a functional start for a new game as well. Now our goal for the first month by the end of July is to build 6 homes. That's going to take 12 lumber, and we only have 8 lumber. So we are going to need to spend 2 lumber in order to set up a logging camp as our very first building that we construct. In addition to that, we're also going to be setting up a hitching post and moving our starting hitching post right next to the lumber camp. And then we can use our remaining 6 timber to start laying down the foundations of our first homes. Let's go ahead and lay down those 3 homes. Now we're starting with 50 regional wealth. We'll spend 20 of that right out of the gate to order a new oxen. We will work hard to get these houses done. Now as soon as our logging camp is finished, we're going to go ahead and assign 3 families to it. We want to get as many families as we can there. Unfortunately, it has started raining, and without a granary or storehouse, we are going to be losing some food and fuel, and so that is likely going to tighten our timeline just a little bit, but we should be okay. I think we're going to be just fine there. Let's speed along until we have some more timber. All right, we have 4 more timber, so we can set up 2 more houses, and that will be enough for our existing population. Go ahead and set those up. Just like so. That might be a little too big of a roadway there. Can we do 2 houses in that space? No. Might need to go off the grid there. Halfway in between. There we go. That'll be just fine. Alright, we've gotten a second log, which means we can take 2 of the families off of our logging camp as we have enough for the beginning. We'll keep a family there so we can continue building up, and our next home is going to be the first of our large sort of vegetable producing homes. And for this, we're going to be using the technique we talked about in the very first episode of using corpse pits to set up a large vegetable garden. So we're going to be setting down 3 corpse pits here and using those to outline a road. We'll take this up to the corner of that first one and to the corner of the second one, and across like so to the other road. Then we can go ahead and delete these corpse pits and set up our burgage plot in there. Now getting these burgage plots It can be a little tricky. I found the best way is to start a few ticks out from the edge, go into the corner, and then around the corner on the far side, 2 ticks, and then try and find a way that it snaps and fills the space. And we only have 2 timber, so it's showing an incomplete structure there, but if we shrink that down, we've got a pretty good diagonal there. I wonder if we can do better. So let's go ahead and click a couple of these ticks off and see if we can't get a slightly better arrangement of our plot lines there. Okay, and I think that that is going to be our best plot there. So let's go ahead and construct that plot. And let's see if we can get these homes constructed by the end of July. Normally I turn off the UI for this, but I want to be watching that that clock. We're at July 16th and have 2 homes built. Let's see if we can get this constructed in time. There's 3. There's 4. There's 5, and that's given us our first settlement point. That's excellent. We aren't going to be using that just yet. And can we get the 6th home built in time? Yes, we can. Excellent. Wonderful. And that is fantastic. So we have our 6 homes, and we can start setting up the other necessary resources and infrastructure. And the most important thing for us, I think, is going to be food. So let's go ahead and set up a hunting camp. Now there's a large hunting grounds right nearby. So we can set up our hunting camp here, and that will do well at that camp. We can also set up a forager's hut on the other side in order to forage from the berry bushes that are nearby. We'll set that out near our burgage plots, but on the other side of the road. Now we want to protect these berry bushes, so one of the things we can do is go into the farming tab and set up a field and surround our berry bushes. So we can go ahead and set this field around the berry bushes, construct that. That will knock out the trees in the area, but if we go and select a forager's hut, we can see where the berry bushes are, and we can see that they are nearby, which means that our woodcutters and loggers should not interfere with those. As long as we leave this field fallow, those berry bushes should be protected. But our hunting camp is done, so we can start gathering some food. And as we gain the resources, we'll be able to set up the rest of our critical infrastructure. We can be able to set up a storehouse and a granary, and then a marketplace in between them so that both have nice, quick, and easy access to the market stalls. All right. The month of August has started. Another family has moved, so we now need to be ready to have another house at the end of this month as well. We're starting to run a little bit low on food and fuel, so we'll need to move through those quickly. Let's go ahead and make room for this family by adding extra living space to our large family farmstead. And that'll give us room for a 7th family to move in at the end of this month, and hopefully by the end of this month we'll have more timber that we can use to put in another bank of homes. We can also go ahead and select that plot and put in our vegetable garden so that anybody who is living there has a chance to start working on these vegetable patches, because that is going to be a major source of food for us. All right, we're up to 4 timber, so we can go ahead and use a couple of those, use 2 of those to set up a saw pit. That'll give us some access to some more advanced resources. Then we can use one of the remaining ones to set up a well. Now, there's no water near our town, but fortunately it doesn't really matter where the water is. We just need access to a well on the road network, and we should be able to do that just fine. All right, now in addition to food, of course, we're going to need fuel, so we can go ahead and set up a woodcutter's camp. Now, both our logging camp and our woodcutter's camp have the possibility of disrupting our livestock and our berries. So even though we have the farm around the berries, that should be safe, but it also wouldn't hurt us to go ahead and assign them a work area that they can work that will prevent them from going into that region. So we can go ahead and set this work area and just give them a pretty large work area, but one that won't interfere with those. Just as we did with the logging camp, we can go ahead and set a limited work area for our woodcutter's lodge that, even though it'll be quite large, will keep it away from sort of the critical resources that we don't want it to disturb. When September has started, we did indeed have a 7th family move in, which means we can assign a family to the woodcutter's lodge, which is pretty critical at this point as we are out of fuel. And we also have enough timber that we can lay out some more burgage plots. That'll give us room to expand in the future. I'm going to go ahead and map out another large garden plot here. And here we have another very nice backyard extension that we're able to get on this side. And so that'll be another excellent vegetable patch for us. As our town grows, we're going to continue adding in all of the essential resources and industries. So we'll place in a forester's hut. For a happy town, we can place a church. And then the final thing we'll need is a tannery, which we can place next to our hunting camp. Now, as December sets in, we are starting to run a little low on living space. We only have 2 homes left, so we can let our timber stockpiles build up a little bit more and then construct another large bank of homes. And I think 10 more homes should be enough for us to really get to a point where we can start with iron mining. All right, we can place down 9 more burgage plots, and that should give us plenty of room to continue growing into the first part of the next year. Now, at this point, we have enough people that we can assign families to all of the critical infrastructure. So let's go ahead and take stock. We've been going for about 6 months. We've gotten 6 new families in that time, and that is fantastic. So we have 1 family assigned to the hunting camp. We currently have 3 on the logging camp. That's just to make sure that we have plenty of timber continuing to come in. We have 1 at the tanner's shop, 1 worker at the storehouse, and 1 at the granary. If we select our marketplace, we can see we're actually running a little low on the granary. So let's go ahead and assign another worker there. We have 1 worker at the woodcutter's lodge, which is giving us plenty of fuel for now, although that is something we're definitely going to need to expand soon. And we have 1 worker at the forester's hut. Now, we do have a forager's hut that doesn't currently have workers. The worker who was assigned there, as well as the worker who was assigned at the saw pit, are currently working at the logging camp. Now, once our timber supplies have sort of been rebuilt, then we move into spring, we can reassign the families from the logging camp to the saw pit and to the forager's hut in order to make sure that we have all of our bases covered. That also means that all of the new families that move in, and we have room for 4 currently with 6 more houses being built, so we'll be able to expand by 10 families, can go into other industries, and that is important. Around 20 families is where we're going to need to be in order to set up mining. Now, we've also managed to satisfy all of the needs of the level 1 burgage plots in our town, which means we can start upgrading a few of them to level 2. If we can upgrade 2 of them to level 2, that'll move us to the medium village settlement level. And if we can get 5 of them to level 2, that'll bring us to a large village. That'll give us 3 development points to work with as we start to take a closer look at mining. All right, we have reached level 2, the level 2 settlement level. And we are not far off from level 3, so that is exciting news. We're still waiting on some more planks to be constructed, but that's okay. We will get there in due time. With that level 2 town reached, let's go ahead and take a look at the development points that are available to us in our town. Now, since this is going to be a town dedicated to mining, we're going to be moving to the bottom quadrant of the tree, which is about industry and mining. And the 2 development points that we're going to need are charcoal burning and deep mining. These are both critical. Now, deep mining is sort of the key development point. That allows us to place a mining pit on a rich resource vein. That could be iron or salt or clay. It does not work for stone, but iron, salt, or clay, and build it into a deep mine, which will make it last forever instead of depleting when it runs out of resources. The other one, which deep mining is locked behind, is charcoal burning. Now, this is a little bit less useful in regions that have either salt or clay, but is absolutely critical in regions that use iron, which is what we are here for today. And so we are going to happily take both of those development points. Now, the other 3 development points that are currently available in this tree have to do with armor making, which allow you to upgrade and equip your military units. Now, as we've already cleared the map, this isn't really a high priority for us, and armor actually has a little bit less economic power behind it compared to the weapons, which are unlocked by default. So we're going to leave those points alone. The 4 remaining development points that we get will instead go to making it a little bit easier to support a large population. I think we're going to go into trapping and advanced skinning, since we have a rich game node that'll allow that to support a very large population indeed. And we may pick up orchardry as well for another major food staple. and sheep breeding, which can support an entire town all on its own if we wanted, or we might look at something like beekeeping or possibly forest management to increase the yield from our berries. Now, over on the trade side of the tree, the foreign suppliers is another one that might be interesting here, but the other two aren't really going to be necessary for us here. So the iron mining in Manor Lords is tremendously lucrative. We're going to have more money than we know what to do with in very short order, in just a few years. And both trade logistics and better deals are all about saving money when you set up trade routes or when you purchase goods. We're not going to be purchasing a whole lot of goods, so better deals doesn't really do much for us at all. And trade logistics makes it cheaper to set up trade routes, but that's sort of a one-time cost. And we might set up, 5 or 10 or maybe even 15 trade routes. But even all of those added together, we're looking at maybe 1, 2, perhaps 3,000 gold worth of sort of initial investment. And cutting that in half is nice, but it's not worth a development point. So I think we're going to be avoiding those for this particular town. Now, foreign suppliers could be interesting. A firewood stall would make it quite a bit easier to supply our charcoal burning. But firewood is something that's pretty cheap to get ourselves, so I'm not sure we need that. Now, the food cart is certainly an option. That would give us a fourth food type. And again, we will have plenty of money for it. So we'll leave that one open as an option alongside the forest management and beekeeping, and we'll play around with that later. Now, before we can start working on mining, there are a couple of more things we need to do. First of all, we need to shore up our food supplies just a little bit more. We also need to start generating some regional wealth, because building a deep mine actually costs some amount of regional wealth. So let's go ahead and set up a trading post that'll allow us to start generating just a little bit of regional wealth so that we can start setting up some of those deep mines, as well as build some chicken coops that'll help out with the food production. Now, we've actually encountered another bug in the game. Unfortunately, this is one that isn't affecting this town in particular, but is something that's going on. We are paying a company, the Huntsman. In part 5 of this series, the Huntsman was wiped out in a battle. And in Manor Lords, there's a bug right now that if a mercenary group is completely wiped out, there's no way to disband them or cancel your contract with them, so you continue paying them. And so that's why we're continuing to pay 250 coins a month out of our treasury. You can see we're down to 779 coins. And if we go into our army tab, the Huntsmen are nowhere to be found. Now, fortunately, there is a way around this, although it is a little inconvenient. What we need to do is completely deplete our treasury, get down to 0. So that way, when the mercenary group sort of attempts to pull that money at the end of the month, it will fail, and that will sort of naturally cancel the contract, at which point we'll be able to start rebuilding our wealth. Now, in order to do that, I've turned off taxes in my other regions, so we're not collecting any money from them, and hopefully that they're building up a nice little stockpile of wealth so that we'll be able to rebuild our treasury quickly when we need it. Our trading post here in Iron Hills has been completed, and so we can find something to trade to start generating some revenue. I think berries are probably going to be what we're going for, and we will go ahead and just trade that down to 0. All right, we have gotten through all of our stone deposits, or all of our starting stone resources, so we can go ahead and set up a small stone camp, which will allow us to catch back up on that by assigning a worker to it until they have depleted our local stone deposit. That'll generate 220 stone, which should be more than enough for all of our needs for a while. Looks like we've just gotten this message. The mercenary company unpaid the Huntsman. That is what we've been looking for. That indicates that we are no longer in debt to them, and have cleared the bug with having to pay them despite them not being present in our military. So we can go ahead and go around to our other regions and reestablish our taxes. It looks like Iberbach is up to 1,800 regional wealth, and Eichenau is doing almost as well at 1,500. So we're doing just fine there. And so we can reestablish those taxes, and we should be just fine. And soon, our Iron Hills settlement will be utterly eclipsing them. Soon. All right, since we're going to be doing a lot of trading, we can go ahead and set up a hitching post next to our trading hut. Now this will become a stable and will house eventually 2 horses for our trading post to use. Fortunately, until we start generating some trade, we're not going to be able to do very much. It looks like we are getting our first first delivery of berries to our trading post, so we should start seeing some of that revenue coming in shortly. Meanwhile, our population is continuing to grow, so that is exciting news. We're also starting to get our first vegetable harvest after about a year after having moved in here. So vegetables have already become a staple food crop for us, or food source for us, and that is excellent. Looks like we're starting to see some trade coming in, and we are building some regional wealth. So I think it is about time for us to start looking at setting up our mining industry. Now, our mining industry is a relatively straightforward production chain. We're going to start by coming on over to our iron deposit and constructing a mining pit, which can be found in the mining tree. I think we may need to reroute this road here. It might be built just a little bit too close. So let's go ahead and clear that out. And then let's see, where does this... This one also might be a little too close. So we'll have a little bit of a jog over there. All right, so once again, the production chain for mining is going to be fairly straightforward. We're going to be mining iron ore from our iron deposit. We're then going to be sending that into a bloomery, which is found in the industry tab, and that will turn the iron ore into iron slabs, and those iron slabs can then be sent to a smithy to be turned into tools. Now, in addition to a smithy, there is also a backyard extension for level 2 plots of a blacksmith, and a blacksmith can take the iron slabs and turn them into tools, just like a smithy can also turn them into spears, sidearms, pole arms, and iron parts. And we will be constructing several of those. But I think for now, we want to start setting up a industrial region over here by our iron deposit. So let's go ahead and start by setting up some mining pits. Now, as of right now, we can actually fit 3 mining pits onto a single deposit if we do it just right. We're going to start by moving in from one edge, and we want to be pixel perfect here as much as we can. I think we only have 3 or 4 spare pixels to work with. We want to find precisely the edge of the deposit, and as soon as we see that there's a deposit in range, we can go ahead and place down our first mining pit. Now we're going to come in from the south and overlap just so that we don't run into issues, and move in from the south until we see the same. So right around there. Again, we want to be as close to perfect with this as we can. We'll get it just there. And then we can come in from the north and do the same. And if we've done the first 2 well, the third one should be quite easy to place. And just like that, we have 3 mining pits on our single rich mining node, which will provide a huge amount of industry for us. We'll go ahead and wrap some roads around this stuff. And I think we can even run this road on back as well over to our main town roads. And we're going to be doing most of our industry over in this region, so we can go ahead and start setting up the buildings for it. The first thing we're going to need to build is a charcoal kiln. Now, charcoal kilns are going to use firewood. And so we're also going to set up a woodcutter's lodge over here. And then a storehouse in order to hold the goods that are produced here. Now, the reason we need a charcoal kiln is because after iron is mined from the mining pits, every further step of blacksmithing uses a huge amount of fuel. So if we go into our industry tab, for example, and set up a bloomery, and we may even want to set up 2 of these actually, each of those is going to require fuel. And if we can have a local supply of charcoal at our storehouse, that will be great. We'll then also want to set up a smithy that can take the iron slabs from our bloomery. And last but not least, we'll want to set up a few residential buildings over here so that we can convert these into both to house local workers, but also to convert into blacksmith shops at a later time. So let's go ahead and get this area constructed. All right, and that is a mining industrial district all set up. Looks like we are still waiting on our final deep mine to be constructed. The rest of our buildings are in place and are looking good. We're also going to go ahead and upgrade the storehouse here so that we have plenty of room, and we are going to need that soon. All right, with that industrial district done, before we start moving workers over there, we do want to shore up our food production just a little bit. We're starting to get a large number of vegetables coming in. We still have a lot of meat coming in, and we have a fair bit of berries coming in, although it is the end of the season, so we can go ahead and assign at least some of the families from there, especially since we're still selling those berries. We want to make sure that we are able to get as much as we can from the other ones. However, we do have a good amount of regional wealth, and with our mining pits set up, we don't really need to be holding much in reserve, and we can go ahead and set up some chicken coops for this, for our town, and take many of our burgage plots here and assign them chicken coops. All right, now that was a total of 11 chicken coops that we built, which is quite a lot. But remember, each one of those is going to produce 1 egg per month. We have 21 families that each requires 1 food per month. So those 11 chicken coops right there will provide, at a minimum, the sort of basic sustenance for half of our town. That means that's going to give us a lot of opportunity to build up stockpiles of the vegetables, of the meat, of the berries, and in fact of those eggs, because whenever a family consumes one of the other options, those eggs will go into the stockpile as well. I generally like to have between 1/3 and 1/2 of the houses in a town as chicken coops, and that will ensure that we have both the food variety and the volume that we need to support a continually growing population. All right, now let's take a quick update and see where we are at. We've been here for 18 months, and our town has been growing by leaps and bounds. It is looking fantastic, and I'm very pleased with the progress we've made. I am, however, ready to take it to the next level, and so let's see where we are at. We currently have 23 families living here, which means we have picked up 18 new families since we started the town, and in fact 18 months have passed, so we've managed to keep housing rolling for it. Of those 23 families, 9 of them are currently unassigned. That means we have 14 families which are providing for our town. Now, 2 of those are dedicated to food at our hunting camp and at our forager's hut, and another 6 are at our granary and our storehouse, 3 apiece, to distribute the goods that we're getting to everyone else. We have 1 family at our woodcutter's lodge providing fuel for the town, and then 1 at our logging camp and 1 at our saw pit providing building materials. We also have 1 forester, which is replanting all of the trees our woodcutters are chopping down, and 1 person working at the tannery to provide to meet the clothing need of our people by producing leather, which we're actually overproducing in a huge amount, so we may want to set up some trade to cut down on that. Lastly, we have 1 person working at our trading post, which is keeping us generating enough regional wealth that we can buy the things we need to buy. But we're not exactly making a lot of money yet. That is going to change very soon. See, now that we have these 9 families, we'll want to keep 1 unassigned in case we do some more construction, but we can head on over to our mining industrial district and assign 8 of them to work over here. And we're going to need a supply of fuel, so we'll assign 1 of those to the woodcutter's lodge and 1 to the charcoal kiln. We're also going to assign 1 to the storehouse, and for this one we're actually going to go ahead and assign a limited work area and limit it just to this industrial district. We don't want the people working at this storehouse to go very far. We're also going to limit what this storehouse can take up. So we're going to say they can pick up charcoal and firewood, and then anything related to the creation or processing of iron. So that's iron ore, iron slabs, iron parts. We will leave on iron tools, but turn off the rest of our commodities, and then disable anything from the military area, but we will reallow sidearms, spears, and pole arms. We're probably not going to be doing anything with the armor, at least not in the near term. Now that's 3 of the families used up, so we can go ahead and assign 2 more to a deep mine to start generating iron, 2 to a bloomery, and then 1 to a smithy. Now, as we continue to fill in our remaining houses, we will get more workers who are able to fill in the rest of the jobs out here. Ultimately, this district running at full capacity with all of the mines filled and enough industry to process all of those goods as well as handle it in trade will take something on the order of 75 workers. And obviously we don't have that capacity yet, but we are doing very well. And this should start generating a large number of tools for us. And with all of that set up, the final step is going to be to go into our trading post and set up a trade route on commodities, in particular on tools. Since that's the first item we're producing, we can go ahead and export tools and go ahead and just limit that to, we'll say we'll keep 5 in stock, which will let us build any new buildings we want to build that require tools as a reagent. We can also go into crafting materials and start exporting iron ore, but we'll want to keep some of that in reserve, so we'll say 10 units in reserve, and the same with iron slabs. We'll go ahead and keep 10 in reserve. And now we wait. Now we wait for our industries to come to life to start producing plenty of goods for us. If we take a look, we can see we're already getting tons of iron ore and iron slabs in production for us. That is fantastic. And if we take a look at our building materials, we're starting to see tools rolling in as well. And I think in very short order, we will have plenty of tools coming in, and that is going to be great for us. Right? It looks like one of our other towns is being attacked, and so our construction efforts on the Iron Hills are being very rudely interrupted. Let's go ahead and muster our military forces to meet these brigands in battle. And our crossbow troops have already started to engage the enemy. And they have already begun to suffer losses before even meeting us on the field of battle. Over here we have our Eichenau retinue doing battle and defeating handily these invading brigands. It looks like over here we have a couple of our spear and polearm militias also engaging. And there we go. The brigands have once again been driven back, and our people can return to their lives. And turning our attention back to our industrial district over here in Iron Hills, one of our houses has been upgraded. A couple more are ready to go, but I think we can take that house and turn it into a blacksmith. So let's go ahead and construct a blacksmith's workshop there. Now, one of the things we can do is shift around families in order to make sure we're making full use of the resources we have. If we take a look at our trade goods, you can see that we've got about 25 iron ore and about 42 iron slabs. What this means is that we're probably producing about a good amount for how much we're using. However, when we set up this blacksmith shop, so we'll need to expand the amount we're creating in a bloomery by sending workers to work in the second bloomery. That in turn will require more iron ore, and we'll likely need to expand our mining operation as well. Now, fortunately, that's no big deal for us. We have the mines in place and the other bloomery, as well as the people in town to do it. So let's go ahead and get these constructed and see how things shape up. And it looks like upgrading our houses to level 2 has actually increased our settlement level and unlocked another point for us, so that is excellent news. And our blacksmith shop is completed. Now that is producing sidearms right now. That uses 2 slabs to produce 1 sidearm. The other one that we might be interested in is polearms, which uses 1 slab and 1 planks. But for now we'll stick to sidearms, so we have sort of short supply lines in order to provide for it. Now we're already starting to produce a bunch of those. You can see we're up to 9, so we can head on over to our trading post and set up a trade route for sidearms as well. Establish that trade route. Okay, we're going to export, and we'll go ahead and set that down to 0. Any that we produce, we are okay with sending off. I think it's also about time for us to set up a manor in this region, so we can go ahead and set that up, and that'll let us start collecting some taxes from here, as well as modify the policies. And it'll also give us a retinue in case we need to defend our people quickly. Alright, we are coming up on summer of year 15, and our population has been growing by leaps and bounds, and so has our revenue. So in the 6 months or so since we put our industrial district to work, we have started to generate a large amount of regional wealth, and hopefully we'll see some more of those funds come in. But we're starting to sell our sidearms and our tools as well as iron slabs and iron ore. If we take a look, we still have more iron ore than we know what to do with, even with our bloomeries working at full tilt, and we're producing dozens of tools and sidearms as well. Now, our food supply is also ballooning, mostly because our vegetable plots have started to really fill in, but being supported by eggs, meat, and berries that are all doing well for us as well. And so this is a town that is in an excellent place to go into the mid game. It has a large enough population, as well as the sort of necessary industry that we could field a large military if we were so inclined. Instead of selling those sidearms, we could equip them to some local soldiers. And you can see that our regional wealth is just exploding. We just had another 282 come in there. And if we take a look at our trade log for the current month, that was 288 from tools and 102 from iron. Now, to continue expanding this town, we would set up some additional burgage plots. If we zoom out and take a look at the map, you can see we've started to sort of create this this square shape here. And the idea, or my plan, was originally to continue building this off, have 2 more large vegetable plots or possibly orchards in the other corners there, and then another row of houses along the bottom with the sort of necessary industrial areas along that sort of center strip, including our granaries and marketplace and any necessary industries, as well as a church. We could then repeat this structure with some modifications a little bit further down. So for example, we wouldn't necessarily need a church in the second one. So we could possibly thin this out or even restructure these to be a little bit more appealing. You know, we could plant some trees in the center of this, or possibly even put in a flax field, because flax, when it is in bloom, is quite beautiful. So there's a lot of things we could do with this, and as our population continues to grow, we are once again out of living space, so we need to continue dropping down houses if we want this town to keep working. And the only thing that is limiting that is the ability to produce food and fuel. And fuel, because we have charcoal burning, is much less of a concern. We can always add some more kilns and increase the amount of fuel that we are producing in that way. And food, with the large vegetable plots and plenty of chicken coops being supported by our regional food industries, is also going to do just fine for us. Additionally, with a manor in place, we can actually go ahead and go into policies. And because we're not doing any farming, the hunting grounds policy is huge here. It will greatly increase the amount of hunters we can have harvesting this. You can see even with a single hunting camp, even with 2 people on it, we are getting plenty of meat to supply for our people, but we haven't even started to push down the health of this deposit. Now we could go ahead and add a second hunting camp to increase that even further and further expand our population. On top of that, our regional wealth is starting to balloon. After just 2 years, we're up to 1,300 coins, and that's only going to go up. I think it's reasonable that we could see 6,000 to 8,000 gold per year coming into this town, and that is more than enough to purchase food if we wanted as well. Again, we could take a development point in the foreign suppliers and buy bread as an additional food type if we wanted to do that, and that may be an option because that would also give us easy access to firewood. So there's a great deal that we can do with the town once it reaches this stage. Hopefully the power of an iron industry is starting to become apparent. Again, it takes a lot of work to support. Once it is up and running, it is a beast without equal and can really be the driving force for our region. Now, there is one more thing I want to note, and that is that when you are using deep mines like this, you'll notice that our resource deposit appears to be depleting. In fact, it will tick down to 0, but as long as the mines that are placed on top of it are the deep mines, they will continue to function and the resource won't disappear from the map. So this is just fine, and this is going to continue working out well for us long into the future. Anyways, I think that's where we're going to leave it for today. I hope you guys have found this video on how to build a mining town in Manor Lords helpful. Leave a like if you have and subscribe if you'd like to see more. My name is Dakoba, and I hope you have an epic day. I'll see you soon.